Have you ever experienced this? A colleague makes a mistake at work, and you kindly remind them only to embarrass them in front of others. A friend says something incorrect, and you bluntly correct them only for your friendship to falter. In social interactions, every time you insist on being right, you push others away. As the saying goes, when you learn to play dumb and remain silent, you will realize that some things are best left unsaid. Mastering self-restraint is the key to navigating society. The ultimate social strategy is being half fool, half mute. 1. Half fool. Not long ago, I went on a business trip to Beijing and attended a class reunion. One classmate kept flaunting his luxury watch and boasting about his connections with high-profile figures. I immediately recognized his watch as a fake, and I had never heard of the so-called big shots he mentioned. Feeling irritated, I was about to expose him when a friend beside me discreetly tugged at my sleeve, signaling me to stay put. No matter how exaggerated the classmate's claims were, my friend patiently nodded along. On the way back, I asked him, "Didn't you realize he was lying?" My friend simply smiled and said, "Why does it matter? Just let it pass. The world is full of intelligent people, but those who pretend to be clueless are the truly wise ones. They do not flaunt their superiority or expose others' weaknesses. If you speak just to prove a point, you may hurt others and yourself. It is better to let others have their moment." In an episode of the TV program Classics Never Fade, renowned singer Li Gai was invited as a guest. After her performance, a fellow guest enthusiastically declared himself a fan and listed several of her songs. However, one of the songs he mentioned was not hers. Without hesitation, Li corrected him, leaving him visibly embarrassed and making the atmosphere awkward. To lighten the mood, the host, Sa Baining, quickly stepped in, saying he was also a fan and listing a few more songs. However, one of the songs he mentioned was Longing, which was actually sung by Mao Amin. Li, being straightforward, corrected him as well. But instead of being embarrassed, Sa Baining pretended to be pitiful, which made the audience laugh and eased the tension. Did he really not know the song was not Li's? Of course he did. He simply played dumb to give the guest a way out. As Gu Long wrote in September Eagle Flight, "Only those who can and are willing to pretend to be foolish possess true flexibility." Sometimes, acting dumb can help avoid unnecessary conflicts. The key to handling relationships is knowing when to be sharp and when to feign ignorance. 2. Half mute. Writer Feng Tang once shared a story. One day, he and a friend visited a tea house. The environment was peaceful, and the owner was well-versed in tea culture, passionately explaining the origins of his tea. However, as he spoke, he began boasting that his tea was personally selected from his own plantation and was the finest pu'er tea in China. Feng Tang knew that his friend was actually the owner of one of the top pu'er and oolong tea brands in the country. Yet, instead of arguing, his friend just sipped his tea and listened quietly, never saying a word. As the saying goes, speaking well is not just about knowing what to say, but also about knowing when to stay silent. Truly refined individuals understand this principle. Instead of arguing, they choose silence, giving others the space to maintain their dignity. Jose Wulua, a well-known media personality, once attended an industry summit where he met a consultant who confidently criticized his business model. However, Jose Wulua's approach was already one of the best in the field. Still, he chose not to defend himself and simply smiled. His silence preserved his dignity while avoiding unnecessary conflict. The enlarged collection of aphorisms states, "Leave half your words unspoken. Yield 3 steps when in trouble. Speak little in times of crisis. Nod when you see through people's motives." Often, growth comes from learning to express oneself, while maturity comes from knowing when to remain silent. When you encounter things you dislike, understanding them internally without exposing them externally is key to maintaining peace. 3. The art of social disguise. On Jihu, someone asked, "What is the fundamental logic of adult social interactions?" A highly upvoted response said, "To interact with others, you must learn to disguise yourself." Media professional Zhang Chao once shared the story of his friend, Xiao Ding. When Xiao Ding first entered the workforce, a senior colleague took care of him, offering guidance and support. Grateful, Xiao Ding frequently treated him to meals. Over time, however, he noticed that the senior often assigned him difficult clients and even badmouthed him behind his back. Instead of confronting him, Xiao Ding continued to invite him for meals, thanking him profusely. The senior, pleased with this gratitude, eventually stopped making things difficult and even helped Xiao Ding when he needed support. Later, when Xiao Ding applied for a managerial position, this same senior led the campaign to support him. Xiao Ding had seen through the senior's intentions early on, but he chose not to expose him. This was not cunning, it was a deep understanding of social interactions. As Lu Yong said, "A mature person knows when to remain silent and when to play dumb, avoiding unnecessary conflict." In today's world, social interactions are not just about relationships but also about navigating interests. Saying the wrong thing or giving the wrong look can easily make enemies. If you insist on proving your point in every situation, you may not only push people away but also invite trouble upon yourself. Sometimes, pretending not to hear or see is the best way forward. The University of Chicago conducted a study where researchers visited over 100 cities over 2 years, analyzing which courses adults most wanted to learn. Besides health, the top concern was how to improve social interaction. The key to dealing with people is understanding